Bonjour ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another homebrew cider review. Let me take the glasses off. I'm going to leave the hat on because A, my hair's a bloody mess, and B, I'm a bit cold today. I've only just put the heating on, so it's a bit cold. In a little box to the side of me here, folks, I've got some cider. Whee! So to the side of me, I've got some cider. To the side. Forget it. Forget it. It's fine. It's fine. It's absolute. No, it's fine. Right. I've got this one. Ooh. What's this one, you may ask, Roy? Well, this is a blueberry cider, and just behind me here, I've got the PC, and I'm going to look up my original recipe because I can't bloody remember what it is, folks. How bad of me is that? How bad of me is that, folks? This one goes back to October last year. So this is a blueberry turbo cider. How did you make it, Roy? Well, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you, but only because it's you. Yeah. 3.5 litres of Tesco 100% apple juice from concentrate. So the bulk of this is normal apple juice. So it is a cider because it's got apples in it. 1 litre of Sainsbury's blueberry juice. 200 grams of sugar. Teaspoon of Pectolase, 2 teaspoons of Malic acid, 1 teaspoon of Tannin, 1 teaspoon of cider yeast with sweetener, so there should be some sort of sweetness in here, and a teaspoon of yeast nutrient to make sure the yeast took off. This has just come from the shed, and as you know, folks, it's quite clear, isn't it? As you know, folks, it's quite cold at the moment. We're not having as bad weather as we have done, but it is quite cold out there. Here I've got a glass full of ice. We likes the ice. Oh, we've got some fizz on there. Fizzy stuff going on. We likes the fizz, don't we, folks? Good carbonation. Give it a try. Give it a try, boy. Give it a try. Now, as there's lots of ice in here, it's going to froth like hell for a minute or so. So we'll give it time to calm down a little bit. That'll do. I'll just put that to the side there, and you can hear the fizz on that, can't you? It's as fizzy as a motherfucker. So what have we got then? Well, we've got a dirty glass by the looks of it, but never mind. You can't have everything, can you? It's quite clear, isn't it? It's not too bad. You can sort of see me through there. The light, yeah, you can see the room. That mark there is a bit of ice that's, for whatever reason, has decided to stick to the side of the glass. Anyway, let's give it a smell. It smells like turbo cider. It's got that turbo cider smell, folks, and I know those that make turbo cider will know exactly what I mean when I say that. So how old is this then? It's October, November, December, January, February, March. This is 5 months old now. Yeah, the smell calms down after a bit. There's no blueberry smell in there, so let's give it a taste. Oh, sharp. Now, immediately after it's gone down the gullet, you get that sweetness, but as you taste it, you get the sharpness. And this is the problem I find when I do turbo ciders sometimes, is in order to disguise that sharpness you get, you have to back sweeten, or you have to stop fermentation early, cold crash it, and you know, drink it uncarbonated, and basically you just have to fanny about with it. And I like a little bit of carbonation in my cider. So this has the young cider smell to it, and the immediate sharp hit. But the good thing about this is that sharpness doesn't stay around for long. The sweetness comes in from the blueberries, and you can taste the blueberry. So it's not a bad brew, chaps. I look like I'm going back to sort of go out and rob Tesco's or something, don't I? Don't look good in that. But I'm cold, and if I just put the heating on and it's cold, it's bloody freezing. Yeah, it's fine, you know. Out of 10, I'd probably give it 5. It's fine. Will I drink them all? I'll probably end up chucking them, to be honest. Some of you might like it though, I imagine. I know Uncle Jono, you like your fruity ciders, don't you, mate? You probably like this. There is some sharpness initially, as I said, but that gets taken away by the taste of the blueberries on the back of the gulp, so to speak. So that's the blueberry cider, folks. I didn't tell you the strength of the blueberry cider, did I? The blueberry cider is 7.6%. So this was done in the days where I used to drink quite strong cider. I don't now. I tend to stick between 4 and 5% ciders now, because I don't like losing hours just falling asleep and not knowing what's happened when you have whenever you have a couple of ciders. It's not pleasant. And turbo cider does that to you. It wipes you out. You know, you lose fucking time. It's very strange. So what else have I got in here, you may ask? Well, I've got another cider that was done at more or less the same time. In fact, this was done, this was done a couple of days after. I'm just looking behind you on the screen, folks, to make sure that I'm giving you the right information. This was done a couple of days after the blueberry, and it's Granny Smith Turbo Cider. Granny's not made from real Granny Smith, sadly. Here we are. Not bad colour. There will be a slight haze in there because it's been out in the shed and it's cold out there. There is some yeast and some sediment at the bottom, but you expect that with these bottles, unless you you sort of move into secondary and you fine it, and you fanny about with it to get rid of all the crap. I very rarely do that. I just can't be bothered. I'd rather just drink it. But it looks alright. And over here again, ta-da! I've got another glass. So let's give this an open then. Ooh, we likes the fizz, folks. Bit busy this one. Look at that. I seem to be getting the carbonation right nowadays, folks, which is quite nice. When I first started doing turbo ciders, I had a lot of problems with carbonation, and I have to tell you, the bulk of those problems, that'll do for now, the bulk of those problems were because I was using Cooper's drops. Don't recommend doing that, because the recommendations they give you on the packet for the Cooper's drops are not enough to carbonate your beer. So you either have to up the amount of Cooper's drops that you put in your drink, or you use sugar. And I find a teaspoon of sugar per 500 milliliter bottle, or a teaspoon and a half for 750 milliliter bottles, is absolutely perfect to carbonate your ciders. You can batch prime as well and you get the same result. It's up to you. You can save time by, I mean, I hate bottling, but depending on what I've got lying around and whether I can be bothered or not, I might batch prime it, or I might just stick the sugar in the bottle as I'm bottling, you know. It's a personal choice. So a little cloudy, but as I say, it's not unexpected. You're going to get slight cloudiness in your ciders. And also, as I say, it's been sitting out in the cold, so it's going to be cold. And there is a lot of carbonation in this, because that bottle is, I just put it back on the table there, and it's already clouded up because the carbonation in there is lifting the sediment from the bottom of the bottle. And so I'm going to have to leave that now for a bit before I pour it again, if I like it, of course. So smelling time, folks, smelling. I can smell sweetness. It's not harsh, it's quite pleasant actually. There's a very crisp, sweet smell there. Yeah, I like that. I like the smell. It hasn't got that turbo cider smell, you know. So before I taste it, let's tell you what went into this one. Forgive the eyeline, I'm reading it off the computer over the back here. 3 litres of cold press Granny Smith apple juice. Got from Tesco's. 1 litre of Tesco value apple juice that was added towards the end. You know, because whenever you do a turbo cider in a demijohn, you don't want to instantly fill it all the way up to the top. You want to give it time to ferment for a couple of days before you top it up with more apple juice. I suspect I didn't buy enough apple juice of the cold press stuff, so I used Tesco value, which is fine. Tesco value is fine. 500 millilitres of ASDA blackcurrant and apple juice. Interesting. I don't remember doing that. I have to go by what it says on the screen here though, folks. That's what I wrote down. That's how I did it. So inside this we've got the 3 litres of the Granny Smith cold press juice, Tesco value juice, and ASDA blackcurrant and apple juice. So juices from all across all areas of all walks of life. Cheap shit and some quite expensive stuff too. 200 grams of Waitrose light brown sugar. So it may well be that sweetness I can smell is from the light brown sugar. I'm not sure. It might be. Yeah, it's quite a nice smell actually. The usual bog standard additions I added: Pectolase, Malic acid, Tannin. I used young cider yeast in this instance, and the usual teaspoon of yeast nutrient. Nowadays I tend not to do any additions. I don't add tannin anymore. I don't put any malic acid in, and I don't put any Pectolase in, because I use the liquid yeasts, and I find those liquid yeasts are just that little bit better than the dry yeasts, and they don't give off that sharpness that you get, that you try and hide with your acidities and your tannins and stuff, and you don't get that sharpness. I know my friend Gary out there, who has borrowed some of my 775 yeast and grown it up and done his own cider batches. He has more or less said the same thing. He's not made a cider as good as the 775. So you don't have to listen to me. Forgive my sniffing, folks. My sinuses are playing up today as well, and never mind, eh? So let's give this a taste. For God's sake, Roy, give it a taste. I'm going to have to taste it again. Very dry indeed. Very dry indeed. Can I taste Granny Smith's apples? Does it have any difference to any other type of apple juice because you use Granny Smith's, Roy? You know what, it's how can I explain it? It's meh. That's the best way I can explain it. Quite disappointing, really. I have mixed it up big time in this, as you know, 3 different types of juice. Light brown sugar. It smells really nice, which is very strange, isn't it? It doesn't taste how it smells though. I don't understand that at all. But that's the beauty of turbo ciders, isn't it? Look, there we go. Look, they look quite nice next to each other, don't they? Which one do I prefer then? Do I prefer this one? I haven't really told you what it tastes like, have I? One thing I will say about this, it's very clean on the palate. The sharpness of your normal turbo cider isn't there. You don't get that as you drink it. It's very dry though, with a slight hint of, I don't know why I'm looking there, I should be looking there. It's because I'm looking at myself. I like looking at myself. With a slight bit of sweetness, again, towards the end. Tastes like a scrumpy. Tastes like a slightly, I would say it's a medium sweet scrumpy. It's the closest I can get to describe the taste of this one. If I'd gone to a cider shop and bought some scrumpy out of the barrel and it tasted like this, I wouldn't chuck it away, I'd drink it. So I think I might keep this one. So I'm going to score that one higher than the blueberry, but before I do, I'm going to taste the blueberry again. The blueberry initially is nice. Then you get the dryness, then you get the sweetness. So there's a lot going on in that blueberry juice drink. But I'm not sure I like it. So I'm gonna give the Granny Smith's Turbo Cider a 6 out of 10, folks. It's okay, it's a scrumpy drink. I might finish these off now. And I don't know about the blueberry one though. I'm gonna need some time to decide whether I'm gonna chuck that or not. Yeah. I'm not sure whether aging it anymore is going to make a big difference, because it's already been in the shed for, what did I say, 5 months? November, December, January, February, March. 5 months. So there we go, folks. Again, slightly disappointing. It just goes to show that turbo cider making is a real art form. And it's so, for me, certainly, I can't speak for you, so difficult to get it right, in fact, to get it absolutely right and be 100% happy with it. I don't think that's ever going to happen. Sadly, I don't think anybody is ever going to go out and make a turbo cider and go, cool, this is bloody good, I'm going to give this one 10 out of 10, if they're honest. The highest you'll get is probably around about a 7 or an 8, if you're lucky. You're never going to match supermarket ciders. That's not the name of the game when it comes to making these. Especially if you're using dry yeasts and you're not rehydrating them. Rehydrating does help a little, but that might just be me. I'm not convinced it makes a discerning difference on the end product. But certainly the liquid yeasts that you buy, you know, they're really expensive. I mean, they cost about 6.5, 7 quid. The Y yeast and the White Labs. They are top-notch yeasts. And after all, your cider is only ever going to be as good as your yeast. And if you're just using a normal bog standard young cider yeast, I'm not convinced in all the time I've been doing it, and I've been doing it for about a year now, maybe a bit more. I'm not convinced that your dry yeasts are going to be good enough to get a fab turbo cider. So my advice to you chaps is to try, if you can and you can afford it, buy yourself a vial of WLP 775 White Labs cider yeast and grow it up if you can. If you've got a stir plate, you don't need a stir plate, but if you can use a stir plate to grow your yeast, cultivate your yeast up, or you can just use a obviously you need to sanitize jugs and things, but look at Gary's ciders, his videos that he used to grow up the yeast. I'll say that again, shall I? Look at Gary Smith's videos where he talks about cultivating yeast, and he shows you quite well, and there's loads of videos on YouTube showing you how to do it. It's a piece of piss. You don't need a stir plate, but the stir plate does help you get your yeast going a lot quicker than if you just walk past a jar occasionally, give it a little stir with your hand, and then, you know, it probably takes twice as long. But you can save an awful lot of money. Of course you can save an awful lot of money using the dry yeast. All you do is, you know, you can immediately pour apple juice over the top of the sludge that's left from your first batch and do another batch, because the yeast will kick off again. Or you can wash the yeast, you know, and then use it again. You don't have to wash the yeast, folks. You can get away with not washing it at least 3 or 4 times. But if you're going to do it and you're going to grow it up properly, the liquid yeast is probably the way to go, because they're fabulous. They really are good, especially the WLP 775. And no, I don't work for White Labs. Just telling you what I've found. So I'm going to go away, have a think about these. Don't know whether I'm going to finish them or not, really. If I'm completely honest with you, I might just dump them. But interesting experiment. It's always good to try different things and stir it up a little bit. And you know, sometimes people have said to me, does it make a difference if I use the more expensive juices? And I've always said it doesn't make a blind bit of difference at all. And I think this proves it, because this has got the quite expensive Granny Smith's juice in there, and you know, it's not great. It's not that much different to any other turbo cider I've done without that. You know, ASDA juice, any value juice, Tesco's, and I'm not saying that one supermarket is any better than any other. They're all the same, folks. You get your value juices. Chances they came from they come from the same bloody factory anyway. So that's all for today, folks. Little experiment on the turbo ciders there, mixing it up a little bit with different flavours. Hope you found it useful, and you know, you might get something from it. At least go away and think about whether you want to try liquid yeasts, or whether you want to have a go at doing your own sort of blueberry cider. Maybe mix up the recipe a little bit. What I wish I had done is, I wish I'd done 2 batches of this. One with all of the additions, you know, the malic acid and basically whatever's in this, malic acid, the tannins, etc., and one without. Because I've done experiments, and you may well see the video on YouTube, the controlled experiment I did with the yeast on just a bog standard plain cider. I did one with all the additions in and one without, and the one without all of the additions came out on top for me. Your controlled experiments, you might have different results, which is why you need to do your own controlled experiments. No point listening to me. I'm just giving you the idea to go away and maybe try it. Don't rely, don't just go away and do a turbo cider and put malic acid in and tannin in because I've told you to do it, or anybody else has told you to do it. Try it without. Try the different juices. Try some blackberry juice. Try some blueberry juice. Over a period of time, and it might take you, you know, a year, 18 months or so, for you to get to a point where you're fairly comfortable with what you're doing and you find a balance and you get a turbo cider that you really like. It's all the fun of the experimentation though, really. It's it's fun to just stir things up a little bit and try different things, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. More often than not, it hasn't for me. But then I'm a fussy sod and I've got a fussy palate, so you don't want to listen to me, folks. Anyway, thanks for listening. I'm going to move. See, look at that. That's still cloudy. Look how much bloody yeast and sediment and crap there is in there. Maybe that was the last bottle in the demijohn. So I'm going to move those bottles over there out the way and then think about probably chucking them. That's all for me, folks, in this little sort of Lakey Bloke review. Hope you enjoyed it and you found it useful. If not, sorry about that, but you know, what can you do, really? I found it useful because I know I won't be doing these two again. So, worthwhile experiment, folks. See you on the next one. Cheers for now, chaps. Ta-ta!